Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Go to Joe 303.
Tomorrow, superstars. Tuesday.
Is that the stable genius saying that?
30330.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. How many unsafe bridges you still have here in the state of Iowa? And
This is a guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
we choose truth over facts.
We'll see who's sleepy.
I'm not going nuts.
30330.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
I got started out on HBCU. No mistake. Why? You're getting nervous, man.
I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck.
30330.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Around the nation, DYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. It's actually, and man, okay, so the time has gone. I mean, okay, it's been both slow and a blur the past couple of months. So understand that dichotomy, right? That's how weird of times we live in. And so it's actually Memorial Day weekend this weekend. So that means no show on Monday. I will not be here. I will be spending some quality time with my family. So, we've got that. That's a strange announcement to start the show on. But hey, you know what? We do strange things on this show because I'm a strange person. That's just how we do things. That's how I roll, guys. Weird. All right, if you're not used to it, you better get used to it. That's how we do stuff on the show. All right, anyway. By the way, speaking of announcements, we are going to be talking, or I am going to be talking to Michael Brooks tomorrow. So we're going to do that. The podcast drops for the members, Patreon members on, Saturday afternoon, I should say Saturday evening, and then for everybody else on Sunday. So that's going to be a very interesting conversation, especially with, all the stuff coming out about Joe Biden and all the normal Biden stuff. So fun times. So we'll have that. That'll be fun. But we have a good show for you guys today as well. I think it's good. But maybe just kind of okay. So, and look, I'm really been waiting for this weekend, right? Because and I saw I think responded to a tweet by David Dole. He does Rational National, right? And he's just like, my God, I need a day or two, because this news cycle is insane, and that's what it is too. It is. It's burnout. It's burnout city when you have to cover this guy, Donald Trump, and just the news cycle itself is ridiculous. It's insane. Anna Kasparian yesterday on the TYT main show went off as well, being sick of the news cycle. The same couple of stories, and we've certainly experienced that. And like the president not wearing a mask and all that stuff. I don't know. I think that was kind of more interesting, but then it's just, the entire news cycle is stupid. That's what this is. That's what's going on here. And so it'll be nice to have a couple of days where I don't have to worry about that. And you guys as well. Because, we all got to need a we're all going to need like a little bit of a mental break before we actually have a mental break or mental breakdown. So it should be good to have this weekend. So will I have color membership emblems for multiple months? I don't know how to do that. I would love to be able to do that, but I'm not sure how. So that's a good question. What I need to do is I really wish I could get some like graphic art stuff, people who know what they're doing to design super cool stuff for you guys for membership. I don't have that ability right now, and I normally just mess stuff up when I start dicking with it. And so I want to be able to do that, you guys. Maybe at some point we've grown big enough, I'll hire somebody to do some stuff like that, to do some special stuff. And all I can say is patience and just we got to keep growing so we can do the cool stuff. Because I do want to do all that stuff for you guys, for members who support the show. Speaking of how you support the show, it's patreon.com/TYTNation or to become a channel member. All right. So, that said, we've got some stories today. We have Melania Trump getting slammed. So now she there's actually a CNN town hall yesterday. I had no idea because I don't watch CNN, right? So there's town hall, and we had a special video from Melania. So I'll show you that. And of course, there's the reaction as well. We have Georgia. We're going to talk about Georgia, what's going on in that state, and how reopening is going. Then we've got a woman that's kind of mad at Donald Trump. Now, this is somebody who I'm assuming is a Trump supporter. So that should be fun. Why is she angry? We'll see. And then we have, of course, the latest Joe Biden controversy. As always, fun. All right. It's an interesting day today. Just interesting day. Where I need lots of coffee. Oh, super chat already. That's cool. I definitely love listening to the vibes of listening to Joe Biden ramble on the opening credits. Yeah, look, I got something new.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I love it. Yes, my wife and my cats. That basically is my family right now. And in a rare surprise, she'll actually not have to work on Monday. So that'll be nice. All right. So thank you for that, real life Jolie. That's again, super chats go to help the show, so it's wonderful. All right, let's get into it. I'll show you why people are up in arms at Melania Trump. First Lady Melania Trump has finally emerged from her bunker, kind of, as much as you can during coronavirus, of course, to deliver a pre-recorded message to students graduating during the coronavirus pandemic. And, of course, people are not happy. So now this address was filmed at the White House, understandably so. And, look, she's barely in the White House. So every once in a while, she'll travel to the White House, which is where Trump stays. So she stays at Trump Tower. So it's kind of a weird situation. It's almost as if she doesn't want to be living with her husband. Kind of strange, don't you think? So now, anyway, in this video, she's going to give some pretty good advice to students, as you'll see. And you probably wonder why people are so upset. Well, let's take a look at that.
As we navigate the days and weeks ahead, take care of yourself. Use this time to read the book you've been meaning to read. Practice your favorite sport or learn a new one, and help out at home. Be sure to stay in touch with friends and family. and make sure you are being your best self. These are important and healthy habits that we can all easily practice. And they are a reminder that we will only get through this with patience, compassion, and care. Tonight, please know that the President and I are with you during these challenging times, and we continue to do everything we can to support you.
All right, so look, there's actually nothing wrong with your message. It's fine. It's a perfectly fine message. I mean, I would take, I take a little umbrage at the fact that she did say, the president and I are with you and are doing everything we can to support you. Not really. No, I don't really see that. In fact, you could argue that Donald Trump, very successfully, by the way, is doing the opposite of helping you and your family, unless you're, a giant corporation. Then then Donald Trump has been helping you quite a bit. I mean, he's been using coronavirus to help himself and his friends, giving corporations trillions of dollars in bailouts with the help of the Republican Party. And yes, with the help of the corporate Democrats as well. And also by massively deregulating industry under the guise of economic recovery. I did that story yesterday where he signed an executive order basically allowing the heads of his, different agencies, like the EPA, for example, to basically get rid of any regulation that they want and say, well, it gets in the way of our economic recovery from coronavirus. So we got to get rid of those air regulations, or we got to get rid of those labor rules, economic recovery, guys, economic recovery. So that's what Trump's been doing. But I think what people are angry about when it comes to Melania is her not having any self-awareness at all. And of course, also being absent. I mean, look, say what you want about the Obamas, right? At least Michelle was there. Michelle Obama was probably about the most inoffensive person to have ever been in the White House. I mean, yes, Republicans attack her because Republicans are generally horrible, right? I think we can all agree with that, unless you're a Republican, and then you're probably hate tweeting me right now. And that's understandable. Go ahead. But look, she's terribly inoffensive. And so, like the controversy was she wore a sleeveless dress. Ooh, and that goes along with Obama's tan suit. I know, getting riled up over fake controversies, while, of course, Obama, the real stuff that he did, like, I don't know, having kill lists, expanding massive spying powers, and, drone bombing people in Yemen, nobody cares about that. Hilarious. No. Melania was just absent. She's just not there, ever. And so every once in a while, she shows up and says some flowery stuff. And it's like, oh, you be best to everyone. And everyone is so great. And me and my husband, we love you all. I mean, it is kind of maddening, right? Look, if you're a first lady, you should probably be there and start pushing, social movements. I know she says be best and everything. But the thing about that is that you can just look at all the adults in her immediate family and realize that be best is garbage. Like, nobody's being their best. In fact, everybody's trying so very hard in the Trump family to be their absolute worst. And so, now to be fair, Trump did wear a mask yesterday, sometime, at some point. There were pictures of him wearing a mask, but when he was on camera, of course, he was not wearing his mask. So he takes the mask off for the cameras, right, for video, because he doesn't want to get caught in it, right? He doesn't want the media to be able to catch him in a mask. Why? Because the media would say nice things about you? I mean, in that context, they would be like, oh, thank God the president actually is being a rational human being and actually caring about somebody else by wearing a mask. Wonderful. Congratulations, Don. No, he doesn't want that. That shows, of course, that it's not really about wearing the mask. It's about, of course, the culture wars. It's about being able to quote unquote own the libs, etc. Right? And so there's that. And what's funny is that, having it on, that counts, right? Yes, because coronavirus is only infectious when the cameras are off. Coronavirus is so very shy. Oh, right. No, it's not. Ridiculous, right? So now she got some responses online on social media. I'm going to read a couple of them. One says, "Oh, lovely. Melania Trump is pandering to Americans from her gilded cage. Oof. Preaching patience and compassion and care. If only her husband had any of those, or Mitch McConnell." Yeah. Well, that's something that seems to be lacking in a lot of our elected Republican officials. Another one says, "Melania, blink if you need help." I don't know if she blinked through that entire thing. Fascinating. Another one says, "Why does Michelle Obama always answer a question in public, but for the first lady just reads a prepared speech and disappears, asking for the curious?" That is kind of curious. I mean, can she not answer questions or do anything? I mean, look, she's gotten in trouble before because she literally plagiarized Michelle Obama. So yes, she plagiarized the last first lady, and maybe that's why she doesn't go and answer questions and only reads prepared speeches in these what look like to be hostage videos. Honestly, I don't know. There's just something very unnatural about the way that she addressed people, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I don't know. I mean, the entire marriage seems like a hostage situation. Now, last one here. Ricardo Winters asks or says, "All great advice from Melania and CNN. Pity husband Donald ignores it completely." Yes. Well, again, when it comes to be best, I guess certain people are exempt. All right. Yeah, nothing big on that. Just a fun little story. Moving on. Dive into something a little bit more substantive now. Now, conservatives have been saying that we need to begin to reopen the country. We need to reopen it now in order to avoid an economic situation that will hurt people far more than this COVID-19 nonsense. Again, that's their perspective, right? I mean, why don't we think of the poor people? Why don't we think of the working class, the average American? We got to send those people right back to work. I mean, so that they can make money, you know? I mean, that's why we have to send them back into the pandemic, because God forbid we pay them to sit at home. Yes, there are people that literally do believe that. You might actually believe that it's better to send them back out. But in reality, I think this is one of those rare situations where we would prefer, for the time being, everybody sit home and collect a government check. I know. Somehow someone's going to find that incredibly offensive and say, "Oh, how dare you tell people to sit home and collect a government check? What are you, a communist?" I mean, whatever. If you want to call me that, that's fine. But that's smart when it comes to a pandemic. Now, unfortunately, that's not a winning argument when it comes to state governments run by Republicans, as well as, of course, the federal government, which is run by Republicans and even corporate Democrats. They have been encouraging a lot of the states to open up. And some have. You have Florida, you have South Carolina, and you also have Georgia. Now, Georgia opened up first, and they opened up pretty aggressively. And so they are kind of a testing ground, right, for the argument that conservatives are making that the sooner that we open up, the sooner everything's going to be back to normal and the economy will recover, right? Because people want to go back to work. People want to get back to normal. Well, now, how's that experiment going in opening up to have everything in the economy get back to normal? Now, look, I talk about the death toll all the time, right? How places that have opened up, like Georgia, have already seen spikes in coronavirus cases. So I'm not talking about that here. I'm talking clearly about the economics of the situation. Have the jobs returned in Georgia? Are people back to work? Is the economy booming again? Well, no, they're not. According to Politico, the state has continued to hemorrhage jobs, even though businesses have gotten the go-ahead to open up and rehire people, bring people back to work. Now, according to the outlet here, weekly applications for jobless benefits have remained so elevated that Georgia now leads the country in terms of the proportion of its workforce applying for unemployment assistance. So it appears to have had the opposite effect. So I don't think that's correlated to opening up and having more unemployment and leading the nation in unemployment. But you do see that it didn't help, that it didn't lead to more people being employed. In fact, you have almost half of the population of Georgia that are on unemployment benefits right now. 40.3% of the state's worker, 2 in 5 have filed for unemployment. Damn. In raw numbers, a total of 243,000 Georgia residents had filed for jobless claims 2 weeks ago, and another 177,000 filed for jobless claims just this week. And those are just the past couple of weeks. And then, we've got even more people that have filed for unemployment since mid-March. Now, the state says that the retail, social assistance, and healthcare industries are continuing to shed jobs at a rapid clip. Well, now, wait a minute. If you're all opened up, shouldn't that not be the case? Shouldn't the business get back to being absolutely booming as everybody, because we keep hearing from these anti-stay-at-home protests, right? From these protesters that, give me liberty or give me COVID and give me both as long as I can go get a haircut. Well, okay, you opened up the haircut, the salons, right? So there should be a flood of people going out there to get haircuts. People should be wanting to go back into the restaurants as you're allowing people back into the restaurants. Oh, that's not the case. Interesting. Very interesting. Not exactly the kind of recovery that they were asking for, right? So now Alex Carmadell, senior policy analyst with the nonprofit Georgia Budget and Policy Institute, has something to say about this. She tells Politico that persistently high jobless claims, even after the reopening, show that there is, quote, certainly nothing to signal there's any return to economic stability or recovery happening right now. You want to know why? I mean, here's what I think. It's because we have a freaking pandemic right now. Most Americans agree with remaining in quarantine, even if they don't like it. They're still smart enough to do it and are okay, again, with lockdowns and doing social distancing and not going out to eat or get haircuts, right? And so this is even if it harms the economy. They say, we understand that there's a risk to the economy, but we're not ready to go out because we're not ready to sacrifice grandma to the altar of Wall Street. So that's the issue, right? So yes, most Georgians, they're staying home because they trust the science, they trust the scientists, they trust the doctors, people like Dr. Fauci on the coronavirus response team, and Dr. Bright as well. And they believe that human lives are important. They actually do believe that, quote unquote, all lives matter. Unlike a lot of these protests, which again, I've seen them hold signs like sacrifice the weak in order to open up the economy. So that's a problem, right? So now, look, we don't like being locked down. We don't like being financially wrecked, right? And that's what Republicans are counting on. They made sure to pass the very minimal amount of assistance to regular people so that at some point we are going to be clamoring to get out because we can't afford to feed our kids, right? And we can't afford to pay our bills. And so, yes, they've counted on that. And That's government inaction for you. But that government inaction, it's a man-made problem. They could fix it if they wanted to, but they actually don't want to. And that's one of the big problems. Now, Republicans, these Republican politicians, they're saying, no, the lack of economic activity that's going on in the country, it's not because people want to stay home and protect their families. No, it's because the government's been too generous. Yeah. They point at the $600 unemployment benefit as the reason. They say, well, obviously people are not going to want to go back to work if we're paying them to stay home. Well, of course not. And we're paying them more to stay home. Well, this is one thing to me, that the companies weren't paying them enough to begin with. But there's other problems with that argument. For one, if your job, like say your boss, says, okay, I'm ready to open up. I don't care. I don't care if Corona is still raging. Let's get back to work. So I'm going to call in a couple of my employees. Well, those employees, if they're on unemployment, if they refuse to come back to work, guess what? They lose that unemployment. I'm pretty sure a lot of Republicans don't admit that when they make those arguments. Like, oh, I can't believe these people would just stay home on unemployment. Well, they don't have a choice. Their employer, if they're home on unemployment, it means their employer doesn't want them to come back to work. And if their employer does, then they have to come back to work. It's as simple as that. So that's one of the problems, right? Now, again, that means local businesses, as a result, are not reopening en masse despite being able to do so. So these businesses are like, no, we're not ready to open up yet. Or we don't have the customer base to be able to open up. And look, that's another part of people wanting to stay home, is they're not going out and frequenting these businesses. In fact, Laura Wheatler, Associate Director of the Center for State and Local Finance at Georgia State, tells Politico that simply reopening the economy during a pandemic will not bring you demand. Quote, think of a restaurant. They're not going to be able to bring back their entire staff because they're not going to have the clientele. Yeah, people are actually going to have to go out and want to be frequenting these restaurants, these sit-down restaurants. Now, a lot of restaurants are doing carryout or delivery services. And understandably, some restaurants can't with the way that they're structured or, what they do. And so these are the places that were going to reopen, right? Well, they're not ready to reopen. And it's not just about restaurants, of course. It's about other things that you can't. Massage parlors, nail salons, hair salons, things like that. Drive-in, or not drive-in movie theaters, but normal movie theaters. And other non-essential businesses that want to open up. Bars are another good example of this, right? Not exactly an essential business. They're not opening up. And so, or even if they are, they're just not getting enough people to bring everyone back to work. And so that's the problem, right? And another part of that could be the fact that people either don't want or don't have the money to spend or to see, to go out to the bar, to see a movie or anything like that. So meaning the demand for those goods and services, they're just not there. And it's obviously not going to return to what it was. You know what that means? Economic recession, possibly depression, and a very slow economic recovery, which also means high unemployment. So you have to understand, the economy isn't going to bounce back. It's already off track. This is going to be very slow, and it's going to be painful for quite some time. The question is, what do you do, right? Considering how this isn't a normal situation because we have a pandemic, well, we've got to deal with that first. And that means, of course, containing the virus. Now, you do that by developing a vaccine or a treatment. Now, we've got a vaccine that's doing clinical trials. It seems promising in the first stage of clinical trials, but understand that there are multiple stages for these. So we're not necessarily guaranteed that this is going to work for human beings, right? And so, look, that's a thing. Now, the other thing that you could do as well is make it so that we can quickly react to any outbreaks and prevent the spread from going into the general population. Now, that takes aggressive testing, quarantining, and contact tracing, stuff that we should have been doing from the beginning, because then we would actually start to have a handle on it and could begin to slowly reopen the economy. Now, we're not doing that again, but assuming we did and we contain the virus and we eventually get a vaccine, well, that's wonderful. That solves the containment of the virus problem. But you still have the economic problems caused by this and the massive disruption. So what you got to do is you got to rebuild demand, right? Well, the best way to stimulate the economy is to get people to spend money. But people can't spend money that they don't have. People will spend money that they do have, if, of course, it doesn't go to servicing debt or paying rent or mortgages, which is why I'm saying, of course, we should be doing a temporary moratorium on rents and mortgages throughout this crisis until this virus is contained, which could be, I mean, look, it could be a while. It could be 6 months, could be a year. That sucks, but what are you going to do, right? You have to react to the virus because it is a serious issue. And it's also a serious health issue and an economic issue. So you have to work on that economic issue as well. And so you have to make sure that at the other end of this, people will have money to spend. That creates jobs. It's really kind of Econ 101. This is very basic stuff, right? Our immediate concern, again, is getting a handle on the virus. And we have not. And that's why we have a lot of economic pain. And as a bonus, right, the way that we're doing it right now, tens of thousands more Americans will needlessly die in the process of doing what we're doing, opening up before we're ready, which is what they're doing, of course, in these states and what other states are planning to do already. Now, that, of course, takes into account the fact that human beings are human, right? And that we should respect life. But our government, unfortunately, doesn't, because it's controlled by corporations who must maximize profit regardless of the human cost. And so, unfortunately, I don't see us getting out of this situation with, without a massive, massive toll on both human lives and the economy. It's disastrous all the way around. All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a break. Quick break here. We'll come back. We have a woman that's not very happy with the president, and I'm going to tell you why here in a minute. And then Biden's story. Oh, boy. So we'll do that. Stay right here. Come back. Thank some patrons. Read some comments. All that stuff. And stay right here around the nation.
I'm in trouble.
Mike Pence.
Wait. Oh, you're getting nervous, man.
Welcome back to the show. Whoops. Wrong button. Welcome back to the show. Around the nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right. So I want to thank some patrons, patreon.com/TYT Nation first. So I want to give a shout out to Sven Riddell and Brian Newton. Thank you, Sven. Thank you, Brian, for supporting independent progressive media. You guys are amazing. All right. More. Channel memberships. I want to thank Mona Hayford and Kathy Jo Simonton. Thank you for signing up. You can become a channel member by hitting the join button on our YouTube page. So those of you watching live on YouTube right now can hit the join button below the screen. Those of you who are listening somewhere else, well, you can go to our YouTube page and find the memberships there. All right. Anyway, or become a patron. That helps too. All right. So let's see. Super chat. I got the name right. Yes, I did. Nailed it. It's always nice when you get somebody's name right. Let's see. A couple of comments here. Jonathan Undersec points out Biden is so depressing. I'm excited to think about replacing Trump, then depressed thinking it will be with Biden. Yes. Disaster. This is disaster piece theater right here, except that it's real. Let's see. Yeah, that's so understand, like, I realize getting people quote unquote back to work is not going to solve the problem, right? So what we need is rent and mortgage freezes, a moratorium on that for the time being, right? And then a monthly UBI. I mean, those, and of course, healthcare, like universal healthcare, like open up Medicare for everybody. Obviously, those would be the best policies. However, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see them. So that's disastrous. And so I understand that this has been a problem. Really, what COVID did is really kind of, rip the facade off of our current system, off the problems that we were already facing, and just made them that much worse. And you're right when you talk about that. And of course, you guys know that I believe that in the bigger context of things. It just feels like that I'm constantly saying that. All right. Anyway, so let's move on. Let's go to the next story. A Wisconsin woman is not terribly happy at President Trump after she contracted the coronavirus while following Donald Trump's advice. Now, Trump recently told reporters that he was taking the anti-malaria lupus drug as a prophylactic against coronavirus. In fact, here's that video.
And a lot of good things have come out about the hydroxy. A lot of good things have come out. And you'd be surprised at how many people are taking it, especially the frontline workers, before you catch it. The frontline workers, many are taking it. I happen to be taking it.
Hydroxychloroquine?
I'm taking it, hydroxychloroquine.
When?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, when?
A couple of weeks ago, I started taking it. Because I think it's good. I've heard a lot of good stories. And if it's not good, I'll tell you right. I'm not going to get hurt by it. It's been around for 40 years for malaria, for lupus, for other things. I take it.
I take it. I've been taking it for a couple of weeks now. I've taken it. I've heard good things about it. So now afterwards, of course, the White House releases a doctor's statement saying, oh, yeah, so we talked about this, and we thought that it might be a good course of action. It didn't actually confirm that Trump was taking it, so I'm pretty dubious about this, right? I don't think he's taking it. I mean, he's dumb. There's no doubt about that. He's a very unintelligent person, but he's not that dumb. Then again, he did tell people to inject bleach into their lungs. They should not do that. That's bad, but some did, and predictably so, they ended up in the hospital. So now, we also know people who take hydroxychloroquine outside a medical setting and without a prescription are at risk. So that's the other problem with the hydroxychloroquine, right? So it's problematic. According to the medical journal The Lancet, which examined records of 96,000 hospitalized coronavirus patients, they found that those treated with hydroxychloroquine had a significantly higher risk of death compared to those who did not take that. Patients treated with the drug were also more likely to develop a type of irregular heart rhythm or arrhythmia that can lead to sudden, of course, cardiac arrest or death, it concluded. So now, this Wisconsin woman, she's identified only as Kim, was talking to a local news station, WISN, and she said, hey, look, I take hydroxychloroquine, and so I'm safe, right? I thought that I was safe. I've been using hydroxychloroquine for the past 20 years because I'm also a lupus patient, right? So she has a compromised immune system from having lupus because that is a disease that turns your immune system against you, if I'm correct on that. And so she thought, well, look, I may have a compromised immune system, means I'm more at risk, but I'm also taking hydroxychloroquine, which the president said will prevent me from getting coronavirus. And so the problem with that is, of course, if you believe that you're protected, if you believe you're immune or covered in the blood of Jesus or whatever some of these people believe, then you're more likely to participate in risky behaviors. Going outside without a mask, not social distancing, gathering in large groups, et cetera, et cetera. Now, for me, like if you do that, I'm not going to be shocked if you're sick, right? If you come down with coronavirus. But to this person, these people, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I got coronavirus. How is this possible? I don't understand. And that was her response, actually. So she said, when they gave the diagnosis, I felt like it was a death sentence. I'm like, I'm going to die. How can I be even sick? I'm on the hydroxychloroquine. This is a quote. They were like, well, nobody ever said that was the cure or that was going to keep you safe. And it definitely did not. Now, she, of course, explained her symptoms, right? She said she was weak all over. She had coughing, fever, very high fever. And she said it just went downhill from there. I couldn't breathe no more. And, of course, she went to the emergency room, was diagnosed with COVID-19. So now, having an autoimmune disorder, having lupus, very dangerous when you pair it with COVID-19. It's very dangerous to begin with. And so people are like her are most at risk. And so that's the problem, right? But yet she took this and she thought, no, I'm fine. I'll be fine. I can't get coronavirus. And then she got it. And now she's not exactly happy with President Trump for pushing hydroxychloroquine, making her feel like she was immune from it, right? And so now it's not just Donald Trump that has been saying that. Of course, you have all people over right-wing media that are pushing this false idea that hydroxychloroquine protects you from the virus, which it doesn't. Now, for her case, Kim's lucky she survived, but she was hospitalized for some time and now has to have oxygen, right? Or at least is recovering at home and has to have an oxygen tank with her. So now the question is, did she learn her lesson? Well, here's what she told WISN. Quote, hydroxychloroquine is not going to prevent anything. You can still get coronavirus. It kind of makes me mad that President Trump thinks it's going to do that and is telling the whole world it's going to do that. Well, let's be honest about this. President Trump doesn't actually think that. He doesn't think that hydroxychloroquine is going to protect anybody. He's not taking it. Well, I can guarantee you that he is not taking hydroxychloroquine. No, he is pushing this because he has an agenda. That agenda, look, I don't know if it's strictly monetary. It might It might be, or at least monetary reasons may be involved in the fact that he is pushing this, as he does have a small stake in one of the manufacturers of hydroxychloroquine. That's already been proven. But I think the other part of it is that this is part of the culture wars now. Yeah, this virus and hydroxychloroquine have been incorporated into the right wing's culture wars, along with wearing a mask, social distancing, and this so-called medication, right? Now, conservatives, they see those things, right? Not doing the social distancing, not wearing a mask. It's not like, oh, they're infringing on my freedom. No, all of this is basically a way to own the libs. That's all this is. Oh, you want to tell me what to do based on your facts, your science, your liberal agenda? No, I don't believe in your liberal facts. I'm going to go take hydroxy. And then afterwards, oh no, look, I've got coronavirus. Oops. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? You're going to get coronavirus. And then there is a chance, and she's lucky that she didn't, but there's a chance you're going to die. Now, look, last week I did the similar story where somebody is like, I don't know, it was a driver for one of these ride-sharing companies. That's like, I don't know, I thought this whole virus thing was overblown. I thought it was just something for the government to try to distract us. And then, oops, I got coronavirus. And now I regret it because I possibly gave it to my family. Or actually, he did. He gave it to his wife, who at the time was still in the ICU. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she had died. I don't know if she recovered. He's recovering. And he's like, this is no joke. We're not kidding. They're not kidding when they say that this is a problem. This is not just the flu. This is worse. This is worse. But unfortunately, there's still so many people, and it doesn't matter how many people actually get it. There are still people here that will not do what is necessary, that still believe in Donald Trump and what he says. And it's worse than dealing with children because, hey, children can learn, right? Children learn and do better. With these people, though, they bathe in their ignorance and they enjoy it. They love it. And they do so, again, because they feel like they got to own the libs. And they're happy about it until something bad happens to them. And that's the frustration I see when they see these conspiracy theories, when I see these people out there being ridiculous and saying, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's just like the flu. It's not going to hurt you. You're just too afraid to leave your house. Well, I'm going to go and do freedom. Well, what's your freedom cost? I mean, and by the way, it's not even really infringing upon your freedom. Getting a haircut is not enshrined in the Constitution. Going out to get a beer at the bar is not part of the Constitution. No, the Constitution actually states that the states in this, with the 10th Amendment, are able to do what they can, i.e., do lockdowns to promote the general welfare and safety of the citizens. So it's actually more constitutional for these states to be able to do these lockdowns in the case of a pandemic, which is what's going on. There's no treatment. There's no vaccine right now. And the only way to stop this is actually to wear a mask in public, social distance, and lock yourself down. That's it. Those are our choices. Are we going to go in that direction? No, we're actually making it worse. And it's because that there is an entire political identity wrapped around owning the rest of everyone else, punishing the rest of the country for having belief in science and facts and actually wanting to make sure that all of America is healthy. This is not a healthy outcome. This is only a deeply broken system can create people like that who also happen to get themselves into power. There's something. There's another virus in America, and it ain't just coronavirus. It is something much, much deeper and much more problematic that is only adding to the misery and the suffering that we're going to go through and that we're going through right now. And that's the virus we also need to fight. I tell you guys. All right. Costco Kevin. Oh my God. Yeah. So I want to read that comment real quick here. Samuel Vines pointed out that there was this that on the Majority Report today, there was somebody that was in a viral video named nicknamed Costco Kevin, who called in and talks about it COVID being part of the globalist agenda plan for Medicare for all, which is kind of funny because Joe Biden and both Donald Trump are against Medicare for all. Isn't it weird how conspiracies just kind of fall apart with one simple fact? And also the fact that this is a real thing. I know. It's ridiculous. Man. All right. Anyway. Moving on. We got one more. Now we're going to shift to Joe Biden. Here we go again. Vice President Joe Biden stepped in earlier when a clip from the Breakfast Club showed him saying something pretty offensive. Here's that clip.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
Wow. If you have a problem figuring out if you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Says a white guy. Now, look, I know the irony that I'm commenting on the story as a fellow white guy, but I kind of feel like it's my job partly to rein in my fellow white people when they say something ridiculously stupid / possibly offensive. And look, I'm not the one who's offended. And I'm not to say that black people should feel offended. No, not at all. But I just think that this is really, really dumb to tell black people that they're not black if they're trying to figure out whether they or not they could support you or vote for you. And the reason I say that is because, look, a lot of African-American voters sat out in 2016. Why? It's because Hillary Clinton wasn't really offering anything for the black community. Turns out having hot sauce in your purse wasn't exactly, I don't know, a good reason to show up and vote for Joe Biden. I mean, not really offering them, I'm sorry, Hillary Clinton. She wasn't really offering them anything on policy, and neither is Joe Biden. Now, that said, Biden might have a better shot than Hillary Clinton because not only has Donald Trump been a complete and utter disaster the last nearly 4 years, which is true, but also Biden was part of the Obama coalition. He was on Obama's ticket. So now, look, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that he was on that ticket to appeal to black voters. No, I'm not saying that at all. He was actually there for the opposite, to make make white voters comfortable with a man named Barack Hussein Obama, right? So let's be fair about that. That's why he's there. But there are people that have a romanticized version or believe in a romanticized version of Joe Biden because he was part of that Obama administration. And look, a lot of those people, are people that watch cable news, CNN, MSNBC, and let's be honest about that, right? So now, again, I can't speak for the average black voter, and I'm not going to try to, right? For obvious reasons, but politically, I think this is a dumb move. You got to give people a reason to vote for you, man. And once again, old people are being given by Trump or by this guy is, well, I'm not Trump. I'm not Trump. Okay, I'll be fair. I'll concede that maybe that's more effective now because of how disastrous Donald Trump has been. And we've seen that reflected in some of the most recent polls, which show Biden with a gigantic, lead over Donald Trump. And it's because, of course, partly Donald Trump's coronavirus response was awful, god awful, for 96,000 Americans. have died. Over 1.5 million people have been infected by this virus. We've only tested about 12 million people, right? And so the economy is in shambles because of this. And so, yeah, a lot of people will look to that and blame Donald Trump for it, and he will suffer at the polls. But maybe not. 6 months is a long time. Who knows what's going to happen? There might be a vaccine. The economy could possibly pick up. I'm not saying it's likely, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. And judging what's happened in the last 4 years, I would say anything's possible. Just anything, right? So the thing is, though, politically, I wouldn't count on that for it to happen. Maybe if you were to throw in some policy positions and really start aggressively talking about what you're going to do for, not only the average voter, but the Black community as well. And, explain why you should vote for me, why I'm a better choice, and not just say, well, Trump's bad. Trump bad. Orange man bad. Yes, but, somebody ran on that and it wasn't as compelling. And again, maybe that's different. Maybe my political instincts are off. Maybe I'm way overblowing his chances here in 2020 because they were undercounted in 2016. I realized that I could have that bias, right? And that I could be seeing things from a, too much of a biased perspective on that. But I'm just saying, why shouldn't you campaign like you're trying to win? I mean, look, I'd love to have an election where I voted for someone rather than against the other guy. And we really haven't had that. I mean, look, I felt that way in 2008 when I voted for Barack Obama. And then I was obviously very disappointed, which I think a lot of you are as well. And so I'd like to vote for people who support policy that helps me in my community, just like Charlemagne was saying, right? And unfortunately, we don't seem to be having that with Joe Biden. I mean, we should, but we don't. It shouldn't take Bernie Sanders winning for us to have a conversation about good healthcare policy like Medicare for all. Joe Biden refuses to vote for Medicare for all. He says, I'm not interested, even in the midst of a pandemic. And so what I think he's doing is he's doing the hubris move, right? Hillary Clinton 2.0 in that regard, in that sense, thinking, no, there's no way I can lose to this guy. I got it in the bag. Well, even if that's true, and early polls 6 months out are saying that, are suggesting that, I still think Biden should be campaigning as if he's 10 points behind. Shouldn't you be doing that? Shouldn't you be putting all your effort into outreach and making your coalition bigger and really kind of setting up that ground operation that you need to have in these very key states? The states that Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, places that are going to be swing states. Shouldn't you do that? I mean, look, I understand that Joe Biden, quote unquote, won the primary, even though the primary is still going on, technically. But all of his opposition dropped out. So, I mean, what are you going to do? So, knowing that, like, Joe Biden had no campaign infrastructure. He had won states that he had never even visited. But you can't count on that happening during a general election. You actually have to have infrastructure in place. And you'll have to have a ground game. So you've got to act like you're behind and really invest and to work on your campaign. And look, by coalition building, I don't just mean like, oh, you should go after the never Trump Republicans. No, we don't want the never Trump Republicans. We should want to actually appeal to the base, progressives, people who believe in Medicare for all. You know that even in states, in a lot of states where Biden was the overwhelming winner, people still said that Medicare for all was their preferred healthcare plan. So meaning that on policy, people were with Bernie, but when it came to thinking that, electability, right? Thinking that, who's best to take on Donald Trump, they were with Biden. And so that's the issue. Or actually in many other states with other people, because often Biden actually, until South Carolina, was actually doing really poorly in a lot of these states. And you had people like Pete Buttigieg that were doing much, much better. And so now Biden just, of course, got everything by default. And so, yeah, he's definitely the last guy that we expected to be even close to being the nominee. And so maybe he should act like the nominee and start really aggressively trying to win. And that's the problem. He's acting like he's not trying to win. And that's the issue. So, no, and maybe he believes that, that he's, and this explains why he's not going after really, or, going after the progressive vote, or really doing, too much on black outreach, right? Well, I already won South Carolina. Well, that means I got the black vote. Oh, are you saying that the black vote is a monolith? Because I'm pretty sure that they're not. In fact, younger African Americans, people under 45, generally broke for the more progressive candidates, including someone like Bernie Sanders. And so you might want to not just look at the black vote as a monolith, and really kind of listen to the community to see what they need. What kind of policies would help them? And look, I could guarantee that he's not really talking about those policies. Is Joe Biden talking about reparations? I don't think he is, right? Is Joe Biden talking about, black maternity deaths, right? The larger amount of African-American women that die from childbirth in hospitals. Are we talking about that? No, he's not talking about that. Not that I know of. So is he really even talking about black-centric policy, or is he just saying, vote for me or you're not black? I mean, that doesn't make any sense as a policy, right? And so what sucks is that, again, it's the Hillary Clinton problem, believing that you're owed votes because you're the Democratic, quote unquote, presumptive nominee, right? Those are mine by default. That's a problem. If you're not careful, you run the risk of terrible things happening. And I don't mean just Donald Trump, by the way. He might be done for regardless of what's happening because of coronavirus, right? But okay, assuming that you do beat Donald Trump, which is now becoming seemingly more likely, at least 6 months out at this point. But what about the down ticket? What about down ticket Democrats? Yeah, the Republican Party will suffer from Donald Trump as well at the polls, but you also need the enthusiasm of people turning out to the polls and also voting down ticket. And an unexciting ticket at the top, I'm looking at you, Biden Klobuchar, right? That's not really going to excite people to go and vote for you and don't go down ticket, even if the turnout for Trump could be lower for, as a result of coronavirus. And so, look, it would be a disaster if Republicans took back the House and kept the Senate. If that happens, well, you got 4 years of gridlock. And in a recession or depression, which is definitely coming, that's a nightmare scenario. That means we can't do really anything to help the American people. So Biden, there's a problem here. You got to step this up. There's no way around it. If he wants people's votes, and again, I'm not saying the never Trump Republicans, right? Because that's not who we should be courting. If he wants those votes, go out and earn them. Actually put in some effort and try. That's all we're asking. All right. Disastrous. So disastrous. All right. So that's all I got time for, guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Thank you for the super chats, guys. Real life Jolie. Thank you also for becoming a member. Subscribe if you haven't already. Become a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. All that stuff helps us out. Please stay safe this Memorial Day weekend. Wash your hands, socially distance, do what you got to do. But stay home, stay safe, all that wonderful stuff. And we'll see you on Tuesday when we come back on the show. All right. Also, podcast this weekend. So at least you'll have something to listen to. Me, Michael Brooks, podcast, fun times. So, go and check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, guys. We'll see you. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. See you later.
Mike Pounds.
Please clap.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Why? You're getting nervous, man.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.